Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Fair Territory. Big week ahead in baseball, and it's a big week no matter what happens with the Boris 4. I'm talking about Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery and Matt Chapman and Cody Bellinger. If those guys don't sign this week, we're still going to have a lot of news. And we are still going to have a lot of news because, folks, it's Hall of Fame week. The announcement tomorrow, Tuesday, and it's going to be an exciting time to see, as it always is, which players are elected this year, which players are going to Cooperstown. Now, I want to bring your attention to the latest Hall of Fame tracker by Ryan Thibodeau and his great team. The work that these guys do on X and Twitter is just kind of amazing, keeping track of all of the public ballots. Now, it's not a complete indication of what is going to happen. As Ryan will tell you, as we've learned over the years, the public ballots generally are more favorable to the players than the final results. So you'll see these percentages, and most likely in every case, they will drop when the actual announcement is made. Now, 75% necessary for induction. You can see right here, if you're watching on YouTube, Adrian Beltre at 99%, Maurer at 82.9, Helton at 82.4, Billy Wagner at 78.2, all over the line right now. Obviously, some of those numbers will drop, and Wagner is right on the edge. Gary Sheffield at 74.6%, also right on the edge. If his number drops in his last year on the ballot, he's not getting in. And that is obviously where this thing stands right now. Andrew Jones, Carlos Beltran, obviously getting great support as well. My ballot, I'll repeat it for those who might have missed it. It's Beltre, it's Maurer, Helton, Wagner, Sheffield, Jones, Beltran, Utley, Jimmy Rollins, and I believe that was it. 9 guys this year. You can vote for up to 10. I voted for 9. Obviously, I'm a big Hall advocate. And yes, some people will say, come on, man, only the elite, only the very best. But I've said this before. Once you have the ballot in your hands, it's a little bit harder to be that exclusive. And there's another reason why, at this point, I believe we need to elect more Hall of Famers. And you can see by what I'm about to show you that there has been a trend in the last few years that has not been healthy in terms of the Baseball Writers Association of America election. The trend has gone toward a smaller hall, if anything. Look at this. From 2014 to 19, 20 Hall of Famers in 6 years. 20. That's an average of over 3 a year. From 2020 to 23, the last 4 years, only 4. 4 Hall of Famers in 4 years. Derek Jeter, Larry Walker, David Ortiz, and Scott Rowland. Now, as Jason Stark wrote last week in The Athletic, in his Hall of Fame column, the one where he listed who he is voting for and explained everything in great detail, as he always does. It's always so fascinating to read Jason on the Hall of Fame. He made a point that really resonated with me, and it speaks to this conversation. The point Jason made is that the magic numbers we often associate with the Hall of Fame, 3,000 hits, 500 wins for a pitcher, 500 home runs for a hitter, those are becoming more difficult to attain. And those were the numbers that we usually looked at as automatic. And it's a different era, a different time. What Jason's point was, is that as the sport evolves, we as voters, voting members of the BBWAA, have to evolve with it. And if you read today, I've got a roundtable with Peter Gammons and Jason Stark in The Athletic, and we discuss some of these trends and some of the things going on, and we talk about how certain candidates have to be viewed differently than in the past. Guys like Utley, David Wright, Dustin Pedroia, who's coming up on the ballot next year, Felix Hernandez coming up on the ballot next year. I'm not saying they're all Hall of Famers, but Jason argues to consider peak, even if the peak is short, what that player was in that period of time, to consider impact on winning, and to consider whether that player for a period was considered elite at his position. To me, these were all valid arguments. And again, I want to see more people elected. Travis Sawchik, Mike Petrello, they've written about how when you compare the decades and the number of Hall of Famers elected per decade, we're lagging in recent decades. That needs to change. So I want to see 4 guys elected tomorrow. I'm talking about Beltre, Maurer, Helton, and Wagner. Ideally 5, Sheffield too. But I'm hoping for a big class of 2024. And my guess is we're going to see it. I would think Beltray and Maurer for sure, and Helton and Wagner maybe somewhat on the bubble, but at least one of those guys gets in.